for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Join Hanson Scotty coming up tomorrow at RGS Exteriors from noon to 3, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. The Eastern Conference Finals continues on tonight between the Pacers and the Knicks. Tip-off local time will be at 6 o'clock. Let's talk a little bit about the series and specifically the Pacers. Joining the show now and makes the magic happen. He is the host of Pacers Overtime. We welcome Eddie White to the Jake and Ben Show. Hi, Eddie. Thanks for a few minutes.
Oh, how are you? Hey, Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm just feeling great for John Halliburton today, that he can be back in the building.
It is. He'll be in the building. Everybody's hearing it. He'll be up in the suite, and we will not have his usual on-court presence or access. But, I think it's good. I mean, anybody who has a son can probably understand him get a little too emotional in the moment. But I think anybody who has a dad and you're doing what Tyrese is doing right now, you'd like your dad in the building to see it and be a part of it. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So I want to ask you a question that I've been asking all year as we've kind of followed we follow the East from afar, but still follow it. I didn't understand all season why the Pacers did not get more credit as a contending team, considering they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But it felt like everybody just said, fluke to last year, which I've been guilty of in the past with teams. I understand it, I suppose. But saying fluke last year and not really taking them serious this year, why do you think that was?
Well, I think you're right. I think that it was the case. I think a lot of times people looked at last year and go, wait a minute, everybody that they beat to get the Eastern Conference Finals, we're really beat up with injuries, and they kind of took advantage of the situation. But then I'm like, wait a minute, look at yes, we got swept by Boston. Boston went on and won the World Championship. But in 3 of those 4 games, the Pacers were tied or had the lead with a minute left to play. And we gave away that game 1 in Boston. So, I mean, even though the Pacers got swept, I think they gave Boston more competition than any other team Boston faced in the postseason last year. I think people just kind of look past that. And again, the Pacers aren't on national television. I don't think we've ever played on Christmas, and I don't think there are probably people that think Dale Davis still plays for the Pacers. I mean, they don't know who the hell we are, and we play a brand of we don't have that superstar, even though Tyrese is the main guy along with Siakam, who's a multiple all-star like Tyrese. It's like, we don't have that guy that the people are like, I gotta go see this guy. I gotta buy his shoe. I gotta buy whatever. But I think what Kevin Pritchard, our president of basketball, has put together is just a group of hungry characters who remarkably have their back. It's reminiscent of college basketball in the 80s and the 90s, where guys just played together, played for each other, didn't care who got the points or who got the rebounds or who got the accolades. They just wanted to win. And then you add in this coach who's won a world championship and who has developed and changed over the years. And I don't think Rick Carlisle has ever been a better Rick Carlisle. And, even during the couple wins over New York early, where he was strategic with his challenges, when he decided to foul Mitchell on purpose to get the miss 1 of 2 free throws, those type of things, those little subtle things, Carlisle is so good at. And Pacers fans are a little shocked about the loss the other day, but Pacers are 0-4 when they play on race day. We love the Indy 500, but we're 0-4 when we play on the Indy 500. But the Pacers have not lost back-to-back games since real early in March. So I expect if they play well, they're not going to go 5 for 25 again from 3. I expect the Pacers win tonight, and then you go to New York, and who knows? New York seems to be a worse team at home than they are on the road.
Part of the reason I love the NBA is, I love analyzing the moves. I love the game behind the game. I think all that stuff is really fascinating. And we've been following out here Pascal Siakam since his days in New Mexico State in the WAC, had a rivalry with Utah Valley University up here and played some just incredible, matchups with them. So he's kind of been on our radar for a long time. And I don't think he got enough credit in Toronto, everybody bent over backwards giving Kawhi credit, but they forgot what a monster that he was in that finals run. And I think that move Indiana made to get Pascal Siakam, I think, was an absolute coup. I think it made them so much better, but people don't kind of realize how good he is, I think.
No, I agree. That's a great point. And this is his first full season with us. He joined us last year, halfway through the year, and made an impact. I mean, you know how it is. You've been around a long time. When that guy spends his full season, that means the off season. And they had to get together in Nashville before training camp started. And it was just players only. They all went down to Nashville just to kind of hang out with each other and get on the same vibe and really just to get to know each other personally. I think that went a long way in the success that we've seen this year. We've been lucky, had some injuries early. We've been able to kind of play through those. We got off to a miserable start, and that was because of a lot of injuries. But right now we're pretty healthy, except, Neesmith will know, game time decision. But, I mean, look where we are. If this was February, he probably would be sitting. But this is the time where you got to give it. Whether you got 80% or 70% in you, you got to go. But I think the impact of Siakam has been huge in the locker room because, like the guy I mentioned earlier, Rick Carlisle, he has a ring. And he can put that ring on the table and say, okay, guys, I know how to get one of these. Follow me. And I think that's why the reaction from the players when they beat Milwaukee, and certainly when they beat Cleveland, it wasn't a super-duper celebration. It was more like, okay, we got 8 down. We need to win 8 more. And that comes inside. And you know how important that is. It has to come from inside. That comes from Pascal Siakam.
As a guy who covers the Pacers on a daily basis, how do they respond to adversity? Because that's a pretty devastating way to lose a game at home. How do they usually respond to those types of things?
Very good. I mean, all year long, again, we've been really good in clutch. In fact, before the other night, the last clutch game we lost was at home to the Lakers. LeBron had a remarkable tap-in. But we've been playing really well in clutch, and we haven't locked not just home games but consecutive games. We haven't. I think it's March 8th and March 10th. I think those are exact dates. The last time we lost consecutive games, so we've been able to respond. And in the playoffs this year, when we've lost the famous Game 3s now, we're 0 for 3 in Game 3s. We have come back with a win in Game 4. And I kind of anticipate that tonight. I really see a Pacers win tonight. And then, I'm not even thinking about 5. Who the hell knows? Maybe New York wins in New York. But Pacers got to get the win tonight. And I think they do get the win tonight because the veteran influence, the influence of Coach Carlisle, they're not – I mean, our fans may be nervous and antsy, but I don't think anybody in that locker room is.
How have you liked covering Rick Carlisle? I loved it when he was here in the West, and he, obviously the Jazz would have the opportunity to see him a bunch of times, and always impressed. I've always thought he was an underrated coach. What's he like to cover day to day?
He's like all coaches. They're all crazy. I mean, they're all nuts. I mean, even Sloan was crazy. They were all crazy. Frank Layden. I mean, come on, all those guys are all nuts. He is so he's one of those rare breeds. Like, I was fortunate. I've had like 9 lives and 9 jobs in sports. I worked for Don Shula with Miami, and Don Shula was a 100% football coach. He would have to ask his wife who his favorite singer was because he didn't know. Coach Carlisle is so into other things. He's into his family. He plays the piano beautifully. He has made it his almost life's mission the last couple of years now is to get food to people who need food and healthy food in our community here in Indianapolis. He has single-handedly financed and spearheaded a campaign to raise money and to create situations for people who have kids who don't know where their next meal is going to come, that it's a healthy meal and that they have access to it. And that's why in his post-game press conferences, he puts on a pin signifying that and trying to promote it. And so he's a rare bird. He's not just all about basketball and, living, breathing 24/7, 365. He knows what his job is. I think he has changed over the years. You talk to the guys who played for him when he was first here as a head coach. He was more of a control freak, but now he kind of like lets the players play at a flow that is theirs. Let them dictate it. They're the ones out there, not him. And I think he is, like I said earlier, I think he's the best Rick Carlisle, the coach, that he's ever been. I think part of that might be his appreciation for the things that are more important than a singular basketball game. And I know, like, he was big on when they honored Benedict Mather and they retired his jersey in Arizona, that the whole team was there to support Benedict. Or when they did it for T.J. McConnell. Or I think there was one story last year that T.J.'s relative of T.J. or something was getting some big thing in South Carolina, and Carlisle, who's also a pilot, flew T.J. down there. He flew the plane with T.J. on it to be part of this thing that was important to T.J. So he does a lot of those things that reminiscent again of maybe the old days in college when, coaches really took, guys were there 4 years, so they got to know the player and their families and made them part of their basketball family. Rick Carlisle's gone out of his way to make sure that the Pacers players and their families really feel a part of being this thing that they call the Pacers family.
I think it's just you sparked this thought. It's so fascinating to me to see coaches and how they behave in their third act. Rick Carlisle probably thinks this is his last job before retirement because it probably is. And the Pacers really want him there. And, job security probably isn't a thing on his mind, and so you see, I love that type of behavior. All coaches don't necessarily behave that way, but that's a cool story. I'm glad you told that because it is. I mean, I call it coaches get to their I don't give a what phase. People like Steve Spurrier will just shoot off his big bazoo about anything you want to talk about. Other coaches will fly players to events and stuff like that. I love that stuff.
He's just, he does so much under the radar. Like he goes on every Tuesday morning, I believe. He was on this morning on our local flagship station. He goes on in the morning. It was his idea to do it. They don't pay him. He just does it because his view was, you know what, I don't want other people to maybe set the narrative. And he goes, I understand social media. Everybody has an opinion. He goes, I think sometimes it's important for somebody. He goes, I'm the guy basically in charge to kind of say, hey, this is why we're doing this stuff. And he does it for free. He just does it, because he wants to. And I don't know many coaches today who would do that.
No. Oh, to your point, we had Joe Ingles, who's currently with the Timberwolves. He came on our station with our morning show for 8 consecutive years, and he was the most popular guy in town. I mean, I'm convinced he got him another contract, so he's smart.
He is one of the nicest guys. Yeah, let me tell you something. When our games start, before the game, really for a half hour or so, I always stand in the visiting tunnel, and he's the one character, Joe Ingles, regardless of what uniform he was wearing. He would stand in the tunnel, talk to all the security people. He remembered their names. He'd schmooze with them. He talked to me and some others were standing there. And, like, this guy could run for something. He is like, they don't make him like that anymore. He's just so engaging and friendly. So I'm sure you absolutely enjoyed those 8 years.
Oh, it was great. And hilarious, too. I mean, he's obviously a really funny guy. But so Christian and I, the producer of the show, we were talking about, it started talking about dynasties, but we started talking about how do you manage your salaries correctly to keep it going. And Miles Turner is going to be a free agent after this year, and he's been really good there in Indiana, as you know, for a long time. Are they going to be able to afford to bring him back?
That's the big question for the offseason. And, he's the longest tenured Pacer. He's been here for the highs, the lows, and now the highs again. He is established in the community. He does projects in the winter where his organization goes out and they give away gloves and scarves and knit hats to people in the inner city and the homeless to keep them warm. The fan base here loves him. But ownership and Kevin Pritchard will have a big decision to make in the offseason because to keep him, they may have to go into the luxury tax, which we don't do that. But I think Miles is a special person and maybe a special situation. Hey, who knows? If we win the World's Championship, I mean, it's a no frickin' brainer. But, that's obviously a decision they're going to have to make. They don't have to make it right now, but they're going to have to make it, and it's one that all Pacer fans are thinking about, but they also realize that we've got something more important right now, and that's winning a game tonight.
What's your take on the Knicks?
I think they're good. God, they're so tough. I mean, I think this series is almost like the playoffs overall. The NBA playoffs this year have been fantastic. The ratings have been up. The games have been great. It's been competitive. I joke with somebody, and they got to watch what you say because you make a reference to people under 30 have no idea what the hell you're talking about. But Pete Rozelle would love the NBA playoffs Because it's showing parity is alive and well in the NBA, and that anybody can probably beat anybody. And the way some of the games have been, the fantastic finishes, the great comebacks. Now, the NBA is a game that we know in January or December or February, a team's up by 20. That's no big deal. In college it is. In pros it's not. So the comebacks have been remarkable. We were, unfortunately, the victim of one of those just the last game, but we've been the beneficiary of some of those great comebacks. But the Knickerbockers are so tough. I mean, and I just think it's so interesting that, it seems to me the numbers show that they play better when they play the Brunson or the Cat. I mean, when they play them both, they're minus 20, but when they play either one of them, they're really good, which is really bizarre. But I always tell people, that's, as the great Chris Berman used to say, that's why they play the games, Tommy. I mean, this isn't professional wrestling, okay? It's not scripted. We don't know what the hell's going to happen tonight. I mean, the Pacers could lose tonight, and then they can win in New York, and that's what's the beauty of sport. That's why we don't know what's going to happen. We have no freaking clue. We want to see the theater. We want to see the drama. It's the greatest reality show there is professional sports. And but to answer your question in a long, long way, I think the Knickerbockers are tough. I think they're well coached. I think there's something that when they get on the road, when they're 6-1 on the road, they get out of the Big Apple where they don't have to look at that tabloid back cover every 24 hours a day. They're just playing basketball, and we're going to see their best effort tonight, and I think they're going to see the Pacers' best effort tonight.
All right, before I let you go, I have a really dumb question for you, but you are a local there in Indianapolis, Indianapolis hosts a lot of different sports stuff, right? NCAA tournament games and the combine and all this. It feels like a lot of media has an excuse to go to Indianapolis a lot, including folks I know and folks around here. And they all come back talking about this stupid shrimp cocktail from a steakhouse downtown. And I want to know if it's a legit shrimp cocktail or is that just a tourist thing where locals send all the tourists to keep them in one place?
No, it is kind of hilarious that the place St. Elmo Steakhouse is known for a shrimp cocktail. It's like a pizza place being known for its Diet Coke or something. It doesn't make sense. But in this case, it's the sauce. It's a very spicy sauce that comes with this. First of all, the shrimp is as big as Mark Eaton, and it's covered in this very spicy sauce. And like, if you go there the first time, you're going to get a great steak. You're going to flat out get one of the best steaks you ever had. But they will say, "Oh, you got to have the shrimp cocktail. You got to have the shrimp cocktail." And then you drink that sauce, and you immediately reach for a glass of water that you drink completely empty, because the sauce is just going up your nose. But it is a tradition. It's a tradition like none other. Which I can say that because Jim Nantz has a brick in front of St. Elmo. It's one of his favorite restaurants, and he has been coming to Indianapolis since. I mean, he told us 1991 PGA Championship was the first time that a major telecast all 4 rounds live. That was when John Daly went up at Crooked Stick, and he went to St. Elmo's for the first time, and he now estimates he's been to St. Elmo's like 400 times, and he loves the place, so he bought a brick in front of the restaurant that says Jim Nantz, a tradition like none other. But if he loves the restaurant, and he says it's great, and he says the shrimp cocktail is a tradition like none other, who the hell's going to argue with him?
Hey, I'll tell you, Jim Nantz. I'm sitting in a studio we call it Broadcast House here in downtown Salt Lake, and we have several radio stations, and the TV station in the building, KSL Channel 5, is where Jim Nantz got his start. So we appreciate Jim Nantz in this town.
He's a good man. Yeah. Good man.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Eddie. We really appreciate it. Great stuff, and let's hope for a good one tonight.
Anytime. Hey, I love the bonding. When post-game show hosts can talk to post-game show hosts, I mean, we could run the world. We're in the same.
Hey, I tell you what, I love my job. I love my gig. But yeah, there's stuff that people don't realize. So
exactly.
Thank you, Eddie. You're the man.
All right. God bless. Be good. Bye-bye.
There you go. That's Eddie White, host of Pacers Overtime. And yes, it's fun to bond with somebody that has the same gig. So he was really good. That was really good stuff. So thanks to Eddie for jumping on. Speaking of pre, half, and post, Tim Lacombe, my co-host, is going to join the show coming up right around the corner. Have you heard people talk about that stupid shrimp cocktail? Christian, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Every media stiff that goes to Indianapolis for whatever reason comes back being like, "Oh, I had this great shrimp cocktail at what, St. Elmo's?" Is that what he said it was? I guess I got to try this thing. Eddie says it's legit. All right, stay tuned. Coming up next, the one and only, the coach, Tim Lacombe, straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro.
You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
G-Bass!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.